Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Sim Experience South Africa Weldmech Porsche Supercup 2023. This is round 5 coming to you live from the Nurburgring Grand Prix circuit. The Grand Prix circuit that they call the one with the no chicane, but it's actually the old chicane, which is a much faster flowing chicane, not the tight sort of 90-degree entry into the, it's called the Vidal chicane. So we are using the older flowing chicane. I am your commentator, Dennis Mitchell. We'll be joined by Sean Woodgate later on. I'm sure he'll be here fairly soon. But this is the start of round 5. Of course, our championship, we have 10 rounds. This is the Nurburgring. Next week, we'll be coming to you live from the Spa-Francorchamps Grand Prix circuit in Belgium. Then it will be the Suzuka circuit in Japan. Then Zandvoort in the Netherlands. Then it's Montreal in Canada. And then Monza in Italy. Our point system, for those that aren't aware, for the championship, we have 2 races. Each race, both score points. Both will have fastest lap points. Both will have points from 1st place to 10th place, starting at 25 points and ending on 1 point. There's also 2 points for pole position. The driver that gets pole position, or all the drivers that qualify for race 1, that is the starting order for race 2. Alright, now top 3 standing coming into this round, we still have Gerrit Bierkes, the team Full Throttle, leading the way. Quite a healthy lead at the moment of 64 points over Jean-Andre de Toy from Midnight Code, and Jandre Duppenau currently in 3rd place. Sean Olivier in 4th place. Chris Collison has jumped up to 5th place. Peter Feldenes 6th place. Peter Murray 7th place. Stanton Augustus 8th place. Rene Dupoy is in 9th place. And Julian Brains 10th place. Dinesh Singh 11th place. Marius van Wyk 12th place. Timo Smith 13th and dropping. Unfortunately, we lost him in the championship, so he'll be slowly working his way down. Rian van der Westhuizen is slowly working his way up. 14th place. Andre Hildebrandt 15th place. Stan Bezuidenhout 16th place. Donovan van Mark 17th. And Wessel Verlien currently in 18th place. And just a reminder that we do have a professional and veteran class. So the drivers that are in the pro class would be the drivers with the red next to the name. The drivers from the veteran class will have the yellow next to the name. We will have one driver at the moment that will have, I think it's blue. Unfortunately, there's been a problem uploading his skin to the server, so from next week, Arjun Balder, a new driver, who's been welcomed to the championship, he will be driving in his own skin from next week, but we were unable to get it sorted out for tonight. There was a problem with the one server side. But we're going to go live now to qualifying, so let us jump straight to qualifying. And I believe we are on board. We'll be going on board with Gerrit Bierkes, and I believe we have Sean Woodgate with us. Good evening, Sean.
Good evening, Dennis. Good evening, everybody. Nice to be back with you here at the Nurburgring.
Alright, so we are officially in qualifying. It is a 30-minute qualifying session before we head into our 2 30-minute race sessions. So at the moment we're on board with Gerrit Bierkes, our current championship leader. Just to let everyone know that the schedule for this round, we are of course round 5 out of our 10-round championship. And I believe now we can get all of our goodies in order here so that we can give you all the information that you would need.
We need to start up the lap scoring monitor, which is the hub of probably most of the information that we do give you, but that I'll be with in a second.
Alright, so no times on the board. Gerrit is now starting a flying lap, so we can follow him. Being the championship leader, we'll follow him first. He will set the benchmark for everyone. At the moment, looking at the times from practice during the week and practice coming into qualifying, we've had 3 drivers kind of in the fight at the front. We've had, well, 4 drivers really. We've had Chris Collison and Gerrit Bierkes very, very close together on low 55s, 1 minute 55s. We've had Chris Collison, I think, within a thousandth of a second of Gerrit. Then we've had Jean-Andre de Toy and Jandre Duppenau also in the 55s. So the 4 of them very close. But for this round, we have a welcome return to our current defending champion, Jason Underwood. So Jason, I think, was 4th fastest in the practice session coming to this, and he's getting all the dust off and finding his footing with the car, because this car is a little different to the previous car that we raced last year. So expect him to be working his way forward as well, and his times are improving. I think someone's just joined the server as we see a bit of a pause there. So Gerrit currently setting the fastest first sector, and I'm sure he will because there's very few people on track at the moment. A bit of a slide there.
Sorry, there are 17 cars on track at the moment, or on the server at the moment.
I'm glad to see that one of them is Dinesh Singh. Dinesh wasn't sure if he'd be able to make it depending on load shedding, so I'm gathering the load shedding hasn't hit him this evening. So that is good. Thank you, Escom. Alright, so what's the benchmark going to be? I'm going to say probably a first lap would be maybe a low 56, maybe a high 55. Oh, we disconnected there. I'm going to assume that he had a bit of a lap cut there. Just getting on the grass there. I might have slowed him slightly into the Schumacher S's. It can unsettle the car quite a lot. He does have Maurice van Wyk in front of him. Quite an interesting circuit. I did a little bit of driving with this one just to get up to speed myself. Managed to get my lap times sort of nearer the front times. Having done a little bit of setup work, so some of the drivers are using the setup that I've helped them with, just to try and make a setup that's a bit easier for the drivers, that when it slides it doesn't just snap and bite. Some of the drivers are using them, including Gerrit Bierkes, so it's actually a setup from one of the top sim races, Michi Hoyer. It was found by Gerrit, I got it, I didn't like it, I tweaked it the best I could to try and make it stable, and quite a few of the drivers have liked it and are using it, so we'll see. Maybe that will help them. It's not so snappy, so when the car slides, it sort of slides evenly and it comes back a bit more progressively, so that should help them in the race. So we should have less breakup in the race. The gaps between the cars will hopefully stay a bit closer, so we'll see how that evolves over the race. And it's also quite a fast setup when you're in qualifying trim. You get sort of low. I did a 55.2 with it. I know Gerrit did a 55.2 with it earlier as well. Gerrit, I know, has done a 55.1 prior though, so that the setup is quite nice. We'll see. Quite a few of the drivers are using it, and hopefully as they get more familiar with it, the times will get closer and closer between all the drivers. I mean, at the moment we have Jean Redetoy on a 55.9, Chris Collison on a 56.5, Monet Deploy on a 56.8. So that's our top three currently.
Again, initially a good placing for D Nash as well. So let's hope he has some better luck. But a lock up there for Chris Collison leaves black marks on the tar. It is, of course, qualifying, so you're giving it your everything and then some.
Well, this is the Schumacher S's. Your turn in there, you got to be careful you don't take too much curb and go over the corner on the right hand part, because then you will get a cut. And if you get onto the dirt, it'll slow you. This curb on the inside there, you can actually take quite a lot of it. It pushes you wide there, and then you come wide and just swing over here, cut in as early as you can, get on the power, and it rotates the car nicely and you can carry momentum. The chicane that we're heading up to now, this is called the Vidal chicane. There's actually two different chicanes. We are using the older one, which is the faster flowing one. There's actually one just before it, which is the current tighter Grand Prix one. But the GT3s and that use the older chicane still, which is much more flowing, and I think it's much nicer. Final turn, you've got to turn it nice and early, get on the power, rush the wall. In fact, some of the bike racers that have raced here in the past, they actually brush their helmets against the barrier there. Just jumps up to second place with that, or a 156.0. Alright, Monet Deploy currently on an outlap. He's currently in third place. Let's see who is on a flying lap. So Dinesh Singh currently on a flying lap. He hasn't unfortunately done a personal in either Sector 1 or Sector 2. But a good time so far to be standing in fourth place of a 57.8.
Right, nice to see Harvey Coates also up there with a lap of a 2:05, and he's definitely going to try and improve on that. So early days yet for Harvey. His car is recognizable. It's the blue and white car with a red stripe in it as well. As somebody takes the more adventurous route, is that Harvey?
It is Harvey. I went to Harvey and then he went off.
Yeah. He's got that unlucky 13. And I wouldn't say we joke about it, but we do mention it. And he tries his best, and it's nice to have him here all the time, regardless of where he finishes. I think he enjoys his racing.
We have a few new drivers that have joined for this round compared to the previous round. So, for example, we have Sean Johnson that is with us. He, of course, is teammates to Rian van der Westhuizen. They are part of the team, or the Sim Experience SA team. So good to have Sean back. He unfortunately missed some of the previous rounds. I think he did the first round. I'm surprised he missed Kyle Army, because I know Kyle Army is one of his favorite circuits. So good to have Sean with us. Always one of the drivers I like to see in the circuit. And of course we have Jason Underwood, the defending champion as well. And we have Wessel Viljoen joining us again as well.
Jason on an outlap, so he doesn't have a time yet. And the Flying Bumblebee of Gerrit Beekers, that's the quickest car by almost 0.7 of a second at the moment. That's car number 3. So we'll see if anybody's going to beat that. John Ray DeToy is right there, and so is Chris Collison. They're not very far back. Less than a second covers the front 3 cars, or the fastest 3 cars, as we still have quite a bit of time left. This is quite a long circuit at 5.148 kilometers, and you're doing almost 2 minutes per lap. So one thinks that a 30-minute qualifying session is quite long, but we've only got 21 minutes left, and these guys will certainly try and put in a good time before it's all over.
Sean taking some of the lines I like to take. The Vidal chicane, he was a bit aggressive over the curb and got the rear end out, but going through the Schumacher S's in the corner that follows the Schumacher S, which I forget the name of right now, he took that really nicely. So unfortunately he had a bit of a cut and it hasn't registered his lap, I believe. Alright, let's just see. Sorry, Sean?
Is the Michelin curve. Sorry, the 90 left after Schumacher is the Michelin curve, and then the 90 right immediately after that is the Warsteiner curve.
Warsteiner is the one that always when I hear it, it's like, oh yes, but like the Michelin one I never remember.
Yeah. And then the Vidal, you can't miss. That nice big banner indicates that we're about to get into the Vidal chicane. Previously known as in other classes, known as the NGK, certainly in the track map that I could find, it's marked as the NGK chicane. But here it's the Vidal chicane, and then you've just got to be, well, you don't have to be wide awake, because then it's a right-hand, a very long right-hander, the Coca-Cola curve, which takes you into the main straight. You'll notice that the finish line is quite a bit after that BMW M-Power bridge that goes over the circuit. So the finish line a little bit beyond that.
As we saw, Yandre Duppenaar taking 5th place, and he's actually still in 5th place. For a moment I thought he'd been demoted. Currently in 5th place, and in 6th place we have Sean Olivier, who we're currently watching. The final turn, we saw Yandre actually get up on the curb against the barrier. That's kind of the line that you need to take, is just take a little bit of curb. It helps rotate the car. So you carry a little bit extra speed, you touch that curb, it just starts to rotate the car, and you get on the power. And if your setup is correct, and being a Porsche, once you put your foot down, it starts to understeer and it just drives you out of the corner really nicely. Right, so Sean heading down. I forget that corner, but that corner is another one. With the Porsche, you need to turn in very tight. With certain cars, for example GT3s, you kind of go wide and late apex it. Gives you a bit of drive up here to the Schumacher S's. But in this Porsche, you need to turn in nice and tight so that you don't understeer, because if it understeers, this car doesn't like understeer.
After you get out of Dennis, after you get out of the Mercedes arena, which is where the carousel is, and go down that little bit of a straight, it's the Valvoline curve, the Ford curve. Then there's a bit of a sweep, and then they have a banked curve, which is the Dunlop corner. And I think that's the one that you said you can't remember the name of.
Yes, okay, that's Dunlop, alright. But Dunlop's quite a fun corner if you get it right, because it kind of tightens on you. So if you get in and when the car sort of grips, it sort of starts to turn, and then at that point you put your foot down and it just pulls it out nice right out to the curb. And it feels quite nice when it's done correctly. Sean gets the final turn quite nice as well.
This corner, Dennis, that you said to me, there's actually a plaque somewhere on the inside of, is it the Coca-Cola curve going into the main straight?
I'm not sure if it was this track. The one I remember, the one I told you about, which was I think the Kimi Raikkonen quote. That was actually at Portland in America.
Okay, yes. Then I'm getting it wrong.
That was the famous "Leave me," yes, the "Leave me alone, I know what I'm doing" quote.
Yes.
One of those interesting things which, you know, I would never have known, but on the real circuit it's there, but it's behind one of the barriers. So unless you were a marshal, you would never know it, or unless you're someone that's doing streaming like this, when you're having to get these really strange angles and you happen to get the camera there. Otherwise no one will ever know that the sign is there.
Yeah. Now there the curb is quite nicely banked, so I think you could actually use that to your advantage, as long as you don't use too much of it and get the wheels off the outside edge, because then it's definitely going to bite you.
Right, so Julian Brain's currently on the lap. He's got personal best in Sector 1. I don't think he's actually done a time yet, so he will be, unfortunately, losing that lap. He loses the rear. Perhaps we can go to Peter Geldenes. He's coming up to start a lap. He's just going towards the Vidal chicane now. Seems like everyone's in that phase between laps where they're either on an out lap or they're not on a good lap.
You can see the pit lane exit where they get off the track. This is the Coca-Cola curve, if my brain and my tongue get in the same gear. Down the corner now, the first corner actually has a very sharp dip from what I've seen on the inside. So let's see what it does here. It's the Haken. Now, Haken is a hook. The Germans call it the Haken. There you can see there. It doesn't look so bad from inside the car, but looking from outside the car, here you come up to the Mercedes arena. It's left, a lot of left. Still to come a little straight bit. More left, there's a white sort of hut there that marks that's the end of all the lefts. Then there's a short straight piece before you turn right again. The corner doesn't actually have a name. And then you go into short straight piece before you go into Valvoline, which is another left-hand bend. There's Valvoline there. And then the right-hander is the Ford curve. Then there's a sweeping part of the track. It's not straight. It's also banked at the end. Is that Harvey going off there?
It was.
Before you come to sweeping to the left, then it's a banked corner, the Dunlop corner to the right, and that takes you into the Michael Schumacher S's. They long, fast sweeping S's, not very tight as we've seen. So in other words, not a chicane, but definitely an S. As you see also at Kailome, you go out of the one into the other, and then up the hill to the Michelin curve. And then that'll be 90 left. Short bit of straight, if you no time to relax, the Warsteiner curve to the right, and then you are going up the hill towards the Advanbogen, the Germans call it, that TUV Rhineland sign that you pass underneath. The right-hander is the Advanbogen, and then approaching the Vidal chicane, which is all uphill as they come up to the chicane, and it's a left-right combination. And that then feeds you in the, you can see the exit off the track again, feeds you into the Coca-Cola curve to complete the lap.
The final chicane is really fantastic to drive. The way you attack it, the car sort of hops over and then it bounces. It's quite an exciting drive. 157.102 for Peter. He jumps up to 8th place.
Peter has a good lap. That's not too bad. 1.86 behind the leader. If we have a look now, the top four are less than 0.6 of a second away from each other. The best Sector 1 time to Chris Collison. His own personal best for Sector 2, so hold your hat. Once if you can go at this rate, Chris Collison, and do a personal best for Sector 3, he does indeed. That puts him up to 2nd place and knocks Jean-Ray de Toy down to 3rd, Jan-Ray Dippenaar down to 4th. Morne de Plooi is then in 5th position. So a good lap there from Chris Collison. That means he's less than half a second behind Gerrit Beekes.
Jean-Ray de Toy is now on a lap. Let's see if he can respond. He's now in Sector 1. Should be about a 39 second roughly. 38.9. That's pretty decent.
Yeah, it's about half a second off the guys that are quick though. They're running the 38.4s. So he's half a second off them in Sector 1 already.
But it is a personal best.
Yeah, it's difficult to catch up from that though. But then again, quali is one thing, racing is another. So hopefully he gets a good race together. Let's see what he can do in Sector 2.
Now the Schumacher S is where he is now. The entry, some guys will go up onto the curb on the outside, some will stay off it and just get the wheels just touching the curb slightly. I like to go up onto the curb because at the top of the curb it's flat. But the problem is if you turn in incorrectly or too lately, then you'll get understeer. If you get it just right, it allows you to get a slightly wider entry into the S's and actually gain a bit more speed, but it's a bit of a tricky one.
So Jean-Ray is a 51.4, and if you look at some of the other guys that are in the 49s in Sector 2, they've wiped the times of Gerrit Beekes and Chris Collison in those sectors because obviously they're out on the lap, so they'll be recording the times for the lap. But certainly some of the guys in the 49s, so if Jean-Ray has got a 51.4, then this isn't going to be a quick lap for him. I doubt that he'll beat his 55.667.
And he doesn't.
No.
Way off the pace.
Yeah, no, it was every sector he seemed. He got a good sector 3 in. For himself, it's his best sector 3 time, but it's off the pace compared to the others, although he is in third position.
Rene Deploy is showing good pace tonight. I've said it in some of the rounds before. I know he's a quick driver. He's been there in many championships near the front. Just hasn't quite shown himself yet, but certainly so far in 5th place, definitely doing a great job at the moment. He's actually quite far ahead of his teammates, which I'm trying to find. I kind of got stumped trying to find him. I don't see Sean on the server at the moment, so I think we've lost Sean at the moment. Sean Olivier?
Yes, I found Sean Johnson, but not Sean Willifier. And also where we were 17, we're now only 16 on the server.
All right, so personal best for Mornay in Sector 1.
Let's keep an eye on Mornay.
Currently 0.6 off 4th place, which is Andre Duppenaar. So let's see if he can catch.
Yeah. And this lap also good sector 1 time for Jean-Ray de Toy. So Jean-Ray de Toy flying into 38.7 for the first sector and Mornay 38.9. So 0.2 of a second in sector 1 for the two of them. And we'll keep an eye on them as they progress between Jean-Ray de Toy and Mornay de
Bit of a pause. It might be Sean rejoining. In fact, it is.
All-time best for sector 2 for Jean-Ray, 49.45, purple sector 2. So Jean-Ray certainly on a flyer. Personal best in sector 1 and all best in sector 2 at a 49.45. Let's see if Mornay has any. He's similar, 49.995, but that's half a second off just in that sector. And let's see where Jean-Ray is going to find himself. Can he improve on that third position? Yes, he does.
That's close.
Yeah, an all-time best, but here comes Gerrit Beerkes with a purple in sector 1 as well. So if we look at the lap scoring now, the best lap is composed of sector 1 by Gerrit Beerkes and sectors 2 and 3 by Jean-Ray de Toy. So that's the combined best lap. If you could do all those sectors in those times, you'd have the quickest lap. And I'm sorry, my maths is not quick enough to add to the 1,000th of a second.
But I think Gerrit is going to smash the time, certainly going by that first sector. It is a stunning first sector. If I'm reading correctly, that's 3/10 up at the moment.
Yeah, he had a bit of a drift through that one corner, but I think it actually helped him with the terminal speed because he got out of the corner. He's using the curving very well, I think. So let's keep an eye. Yeah, another purple for Gerrit Beerkes. So sectors 1 and 2 now, purple to Gerrit. His time was a 154.9. Let's see what he's going to string together this time round. Just mustn't use too much of the curves or the server's going to throw his Chris that spins ahead of him. Might be yellow flags. I'm not sure whether, I don't think they'll be too strict about that. Let's see what he's going to do in the last sector. It's a personal best, so it's a 154.9. So that puts him 0.2 of a second ahead of Jean-Ray de Toy. And in total, a 0.46 ahead of Chris Collison.
All right, so as we see, some of the drivers now starting to push a bit more as the session is coming to a close.
8.5 minutes, thereabouts.
Marius van Dijk, personal best sector 1 and personal best sector 2.
He hasn't got a time up yet, so he's actually left it very late. Well, not very late. He's got time to do about 3 or 4 laps. But certainly these will then, because he hasn't got a time yet, this will be his PBs. And let's see where this is going to put him on the charts.
17th place. 16th place.
Right, so it's between him and Gawie Gous at the bottom end. And Gawie Gous is also on an outlap, which is a little bit slower in sector, a lot slower in sector 1 and also a bit slower in sector 2 than Marius. So I don't think 16th and 17th will change around at all.
Now, Andre Hildebrandt's personal best in the middle sector, but slightly off his best in the first sector, so he might improve. Let's see, and he's currently the top veteran driver, sitting in 13th place. Let's watch his exit, then we can just catch up with Harvey after this and see how Harvey's doing. Jumps up to 10th place, nice improvement there.
Yeah, and he certainly didn't even use all of the road that he could have out of the Coca-Cola curve. I thought he could have actually used the exit a little bit faster than that and put the left wheels onto the curbing. Here comes Harvey. Let's see, is he actually pushing it as he comes along? Is this a flying lap for him? He certainly is pedaling it up now. Maybe he's building up speed to do a quick lap from here on in.
Personal best, sector 1.
Yeah, so everybody's trying, believe it. And even if it's that last position and you've got a race on, you certainly want to beat the guy ahead of you.
Yeah, only 6.5 minutes left to go, so it all changed still. But we've got quite a close fight at the front. So the fight at the front is currently split by 2/10. So characters extend the gap ever so slightly. Let's just see if Harvey's going to get a personal best as he comes out of the Schumacher S's. I think that's where the beacon is for sector 2, if I'm correct. I might be incorrect.
Certainly got a PB for sector 1. And let's see what he can do for sector 2. There were parts of the road that he's been doing until now that he was running a little bit middle of the road rather than using all the track available to him. There he goes past the, was that the TUV Rhineland banner? You should see the VDOL sign now for the VDOL.
It was a personal best in sector 2 as well. So let's see, Harvey could improve, and you never know, you might pinch a place or two.
Right, so his previous was virtually a 205. Let's see if he can improve on a 204.98. He uses quite a bit of the road.
Does improve, but doesn't improve his position, unfortunately.
So it snips off about 0.6 of a second. That's still in 17th position. Which Sean were you looking for just now? Sean Johnson is
in... who is currently in 6th.
He's in 6th, yeah, so he's had a good flying lap. He's Rian using a lot of the curves, maybe even a little bit more than what the white line allows. You have to wait and see.
Speaking of Sean, he's just getting out the pits now. We were speaking about Monet Deploy, who is Sean's teammate. And this is the first round where Monet is actually ahead of Sean, and he's ahead of him by 0.080. It's pretty close.
8/100ths of a second. I don't know that you can blink that fast.
Right, who can we watch? Who's on a good lap at the moment? I think Jason Underwood might be on a lap. He is, but his time isn't showing, so he's obviously invalidated his lap.
We missed the fact that Chris Collison put in a personal best for every sector for himself, but still finds himself in 3rd position, and he's only about 0.24 seconds behind Jean-Ray de Toy, and in total 0.45 behind Gerrit Beekers, who's in 1st.
And right behind Jason, we have Julian Brain. So he's sticking to the back of Jason. Yeah, maybe he's going to use Jason as a guide.
Catch a draft down the straight.
Yeah, Jason's currently sitting in 9th place. Julian currently in 11th place. So he might be able to gain a little bit by this. Locks up.
They actually missed the apex of that corner, both of them completely, in my opinion. Because if you have the inside of that corner, you actually see the inside wheel dip quite a lot. So looks like they both missed it. If they go past the White Hut, which is the end of the Mercedes arena.
And while we're on board with Julian Brains, I'd like to say a massive congratulations to Julian and his wife. They are the proud, would say owners, but the proud parents of a little baby that's now 4 days old.
My goodness. So congrats to him and mum, and her baby and mother are both doing well. I'm sure he's as proud as can be. Certainly nice to know that the nation is progressing. Let's see, a bit of a lock-up, and that drifts the car wide, automatically rotates the back end. So it's not going to be such a good lap, I don't think, if you miss the inside of that corner completely.
Yeah, he was able to at least handle the slide and not lose control, but I think he would have lost probably a couple of tenths from that at least.
Everything to gain, well, and just a small mistake, you have a lot to lose as well. So let's see, is he going to keep at the lap? Certainly looks as though he's staying at it.
Just having a look at Yonder here, unfortunately not improving in sector 1. But let's see if the rest of his lap can improve. 2 minutes left to go, so we're into the dying moments of qualifying. Now we're going to see the guys pushing their hardest.
Take everything out of the tires. Jandre Dipnar in 4th, that's car number 9. And he uses the curbing on the left-hand wheels there very nicely. See how he Yes, onto the curbing for that part of the chicane, certainly just on and off there as well. So I think that's a line that you were saying, Dennis,
Yes.
that you enjoy taking.
Yeah, it definitely helps rotate the car a bit more and you just get a nicer exit. Not as wide as I would have there. I would have gone wide onto the curb there and then you swing the car back and back in and loosens the rear for this corner and then you can square it off and get a nice drive.
Yeah. Vidal chicane, so that's coming up to complete the lap almost. It's the Vidal chicane, then the Coca-Cola curve, and then the run to the straight.
And he did get a personal best in the middle sector, so he is still capable of improving. And he's only 0.069 shy of Chris Collison. So let's see, maybe he can pop up to third, maybe even second.
We'll have to wait and see.
And he doesn't. He stays in fourth place, unfortunately, but very, very close. 0.013 shy.
Yeah, it's really, really close for third and fourth.
Chris fastest in sector 1.
Right, has he left it right for the end? So Chris Collison is certainly trying his utmost to improve on his third position. But what's happened, and we've lost it, is Jean-Ray de Toy has taken pole from Gerrit Beukes with the quickest lap of a 154.88, and he's quickest by 0.025 of a second. So a swap, Jean-Ray up into pole and Gerrit Beukes in second place.
And crucially, they're both in the pits. Time is running out, so Chris is the last driver it seems that can challenge. Both fourth and fifth are in the pits as well. So Chris is the driver that can challenge and he's fastest in sector 1. Let's see how sector 2, he's going to head into sector 2 shortly. Let's see, he should hit the sector beam any moment now. Ooh, not faster, and he's lost a bit of time there. Still very close. He could maybe challenge still if he gets a good final sector.
We've seen Chris get good starts though as well. We've also seen him get bad starts, but a bit of a slide on there. Let's see what he's going to do through the Coca-Cola curves coming to the finish line.
Was a bit ragged there. I'm not sure if he would have lost a bit of speed.
He's got to beat a 55.
Looks like he rolled out of it there, so I think he gave up on the lap. I think he knew the lap was done.
Yeah. So I think that's time.
And that's it. I think everyone else is now pitted. We're going to jump to an ad break and we will be back shortly.
Until then.
Right, welcome back everyone. We are now live for race 1 of the Sim Experience South Africa Weldmech Porsche Supercup 2023 series, round 5, coming to you live from the Nurburgring Grand Prix circuit. I'm your commentator Dennis Mitchell, joined once again by Sean Woodgate. Good evening, Sean.
Good evening, Dennis, and what a great qualifying session we saw. We certainly hope that racing will be as close.
Of course, this is round 5, so this is Nurburgring. We'll then have Spa following this, then Suzuka, then Zandvoort, then Montreal, and then Canada. Let's have a look at our starting order. So, starting in pole position, Jean-Andre de Toy, fantastic lap there in the dying moments, stealing it from Gerrit Beekers, Chris Collison, and Jandre Dippenaar. Mune de Toy in 5th, Jason Underwood in 6th, Sean Olivier in 7th, Dinesh Singh in 8th. Apologies for it saying Silverstone top right, it's actually Nürburgring. Peter Geldenaes in 9th, Rian van der Weste is in 10th, Julian Brains in 11th, Cloud Father, and in 12th place, Andre Hildebrandt. In 13th, Sean Johnson, 14th, Marius van Wyk, 15th, Arjun Belder, and in 16th, Mune de Toy. And the final position goes to Harvey Kloos.
Right, the lean green machine up in front of the Flying Bumblebee, and then the rest of the field come. Those two, as I say, were separated. The front three were separated by less than half a second, and then half a second further back was the car in 4th position.
A slightly different dynamic to this race, with Gerrit no longer being in pole position. So having Jandre out front, I think, is, if Jandre can hang on to first place into turn 1 and actually hold back Gerrit for a bit. Gerrit's not used to really changing and challenging everyone. I think he kind of just pulls away at the front and runs his own pace, and that can be quite different for a driver. Chasing versus just running on your own can be two totally different things, and he might get his rhythm broken, you never know. So this could be a totally different race, and of course in 3rd place it's right there as well. So I think the battle for the top 3 is extremely close at the moment.
And this circuit, the poleman actually is on the outside of turn 1 if they were to hold their lines. So that might make the Haken, as the Germans call it, the whole corner, the first turn 1. It might become very interesting, as well as the whole of the Mercedes arena for for the first lap. That could be an interesting. This is the Vidal chicane, and they're coming up to finish the. It's not a warm-up lap. The
formation lap.
Formation lap, standing start, and then we go racing for half an hour.
I do notice we've lost Chris Collison, unfortunately. I'm not sure what's happened, and I'm not sure when we lost him, but that is a real shame. Hopefully he'll make it for race 2. I'm not sure what the problem was.
They've had a disconnect or something like that. You have to wait and see.
Right.
As you can see, the finish line not far, but beyond the BMW M-Power bridge.
Right. Everyone will now get ready to go.
Are we into position almost?
See someone in the background. I think it's Monet and Harvey taking their positions.
Yep.
We see a gap open there on the right hand side as we're looking at it in 3rd place for Chris Collison. Unfortunately, that's now gone.
That'll give that guy a nice run up to turn 1 with the gap between himself
I believe that's
and Monet.
Monet, yes. Monet, Deploy and Co. Right. Speaking of which, let's have a look at Monet. Getting a good run around the outside of Jason there. Jason actually had a good start as well, getting past Jandre Dippenaar.
And it was off like a scalded cat and into turn 1, make no mistake, by about 4 car lengths.
Nice driving there. Oh, we see nice battling going on there with Jandre Dippenaar. Jandre actually having a bad start. He's lost 2 places at the start, so now he's actually between the 2 Thorax racing cars.
Yeah, the start is so important in a standing start. A rolling start, I wouldn't say it's easier, but certainly in this case, Gerrit Beekers has just got the pedal down and he's left Jandre de Toy for dead.
Yeah. Well, so much for us me forecasting that perhaps Jean-Ray could hold him back for a bit and influence his race, but he's just got ahead and put foot down.
Yeah, it's 1.3 seconds already, and they haven't even completed lap 1.
And we have Jason Underwood in third place at the moment, so return to form for Jason. So just been building himself up. He got a good start. He's up to third already.
He's of Team Harder Racing, and he'd normally be there with Chris Collison, but we don't know what happened to Chris Collison, so we'll just have to see if he maybe rejoins for race 2. But now, with Jason giving Jean-Ray a hard time, Gerrit gets away, and certainly it looks very easy as they go past the TV. Then it's the Advan corner. They'll go up the hill to the Vidal chicane for the first time. Here you can see Jean-Ray du Toit's lime green machine, the lean green machine, going up the hill to complete lap 1, the Coca-Cola curve. And he's got Jason Underwood right there behind him.
Of course, Jason, having not raced for the whole season so far, he's been away with his cricket. His cricket season is now finished, so he's now back to racing. He'll be getting better and better as he gets rid of all the dust. So I expect he will slowly start to get a bit better and more consistent. He's certainly got the pace, as we can see. In the background, we see, I think it was one of the, who was that? I think Morne du Toit that ran wide, and Yonder Duppenau got up the inside of him.
So change position there for 4th and 5th, as you said, Dennis. So that building there with the dome-shaped top, that's quite a conspicuous one to look out for, because I'm just trying to see, I made a note of what corner it's on, and it's the Haken, it's turn 1. If you see that, then you know that they're approaching turn 1.
Just looking at some of the drivers, there's a little bit of gap between 3rd and 4th. There's a gap between 1st and 2nd. We'll keep an eye on that, see how it grows or shrinks.
Not 1.5 seconds at this stage. If 27 minutes, 3 minutes done. Yellow in sector 2, so that's probably some of the midfield guys that are at each other, but the yellow disappears, so they seem to have sorted that out themselves.
Gelden is having a good race in 7th place at the moment, challenging Sean Olivier. He's got Dinesh Singh right behind him as well.
And at the back of the field, Javi Gous is not in 16th anymore, he's in 15th. And must have been a moment for Andre Hildebrand, because Javi's quite a distance ahead of him.
And Johnson having a look at his teammate here. Got a good drive there. I think he's just going to take it cautious into the Vidal chicane.
I'm just looking at Studio 397. Those are the guys that make the software for rFactor 2. So without them, we wouldn't be racing. So you can see their banner around the track. And if you're wondering who and what they are, that's what they do.
All right, as we have the two some experienced drivers glued together on the circuit. There's a little bit of a gap between themselves and Dinesh Singh in the three-way battle up front here. Dinesh Singh, Peter Geldenes and Sean Olivier. In fact, Dinesh has ever so slightly been dropped. The gap between himself and Peter now 9-10. So Peter is the one actually on the charge here, giving Sean Olivier a real hard time here.
Peter Geldenes in the Castrol colours behind Sean Olivier. And once again, we'll see if they're going to change position or hold on to it as they go along.
Yeah, I do love those Castrol colours. It's nice to see the old retro style colours and the manufacturers and the sponsors and things that were involved in the racing that got us to where we are today still being represented.
Yeah, certainly it is.
Right, let's see. Peter seems to be able to carry more speed, but he just can't get past. So it seems like he's got probably the mid-apex speed. But Sean is able to get on the power about the same. Or certainly there a fraction earlier.
Through the Schumacher S. Then the Michelin curve to the left. Doesn't seem to be any change in position on the road. It'll be the Warsteiner curve to the right. Through the Advan Bow, there it is, the TV Rhineland banner above him, the Advan Bow, and up the hill to the Vidal chicane. No change by the looks of it. So Peter Geldner is holding on to that position, trying to make a difference, trying to make it difficult. Look at second and third though. Jean-Ray de Toy with Jason Underwood right there behind him. And that's meant that gap is 0.2 of a second, but Jean-Ray de Toy is now 2.7 seconds behind Gerrit Beekes. So with this battle going on, Gerrit Beekes is gone.
Yeah, one kind of thinking, if Jason gets past, would he be able to catch? Because he's certainly got the pace at the moment. His last lap was a 57.2, Gerrit was a 56.9, and Jean-Ray was a 57.3. So possibly Jean-Ray holding Jason up at this point.
Which is probably why you see the gap between Jean-Ray and Gerrit increasing. Let's see if he's going to position. Oh, Jean-Ray is very clever with where he puts that lean green machine. But with the double change in direction, sometimes you think you're in the right position. There's the double change, except it's not close enough. Sometimes in the chicanes, and say like the Michael Schumacher is, you could think that you're on the right part of the track, but then the change of direction, you're then on the outside and you might see a change. But it looks as though Jason Underwood just lost a bit of distance and isn't close enough to challenge for that position at this stage.
And not too far back we have Jean-Ray Dippenaar. So Jean-Ray actually watching the battle nice and close, because if they start to fight it out quite difficult there, then Jean-Ray is going to join the party and make it a three-way battle.
Yeah, so Jean-Ray, the PZM panel beaters entry, catching up to second and third, which is Jean-Ray de Toy and Jason Underwood. So he's got them in sight, and that's always an important thing. But look how far ahead Gerrit Beekes is. If you look there up the hill after the TV Rijnland, then at Van Borgen, and up the way to the Wiedal chicane, there's Gerrit, and he's through the Wiedal chicane, and the other guys aren't even in sight yet. There they come through now. So I do have the idea that Jean-Ray Dippenaar is catching up to Jason.
Oh, look how much he caught up there. He's right up, and he was 8 tenths back. He just made up 2 tenths there.
Yeah. Doesn't sound like much to people sitting in armchairs, but in racing terms, 2 tenths of a second is really a big chunk if you can get it through a chicane, basically. That means you can be making gains on every corner, and soon you'll be challenging for position.
Nice slide there by Jason into turn 1.
Yeah, nice right up the bumper of Jean-Ray in the lean green machine. So Jason Underwood, Team Harder Racing. He's certainly making life a lot harder for Jean-Ray de Toy. It's soon going to be 4 of them together. Jean-Ray, Jason, Jean-Ray and Monet de Ploy catching up.
And Monet having a good race at the moment.
So he's there with him. He's a little bit further back.
Oh, Jason having a look, locking up. I think he thought about it, and by then he was committed and had to jam on the brakes a bit harder and locked up slightly.
Now that means the lead is now 3.5 seconds. So these two fighting each other, and that Jean-Ray Dippenaar can catch up to them. And Jean-Ray already being menacing on Jason Underwood there on the inside. So Jason be well aware of that and might become defensive rather than trying to attack Jean-Ray de Toy.
Yeah, so now Jason's got to watch his mirrors and watch ahead. And Jean-Ray running wide.
Off.
That was Jean-Ray, I think.
Was that Jean-Ray? I thought it was a bit further.
Speaking of Monet, unfortunately we've had Monet de Toy with a DNF, so I'm not sure what's happened there, but unfortunately we've lost Monet out of race 1.
So now we have 15 left, and Gavigo's up to 14th. Andre Hildebrandt, a long way back, is in 15th position.
Of course, Jean-Ray making the mistake there. It's released Jason, and he straight away closed up to Jean-Ray.
So it shows you when you're defending and when you're attacking the one or the other, but not both, then the whole racing style changes, because you can purely concentrate on the car in front of you rather than positioning your car to defend from the car behind you.
Jason looking, but taking a wider line, so maybe he's going to go for it into turn 3.
This Mercedes arena is left, and then the 90-degree right eventually comes along. So yeah, I think it's just a question of holding your line for as much as you can, and maybe if you can position the car well in the straight bit, the run up to the Valvoline curve. There's a tall mast type building that indicates the Valvoline curve, or helps me to identify the Valvoline curve, but not from this angle. You don't see it so well. But if you were to be in car, it's certainly the Dunlop curve, which is a sharp a hairpin right, That's also a difficult corner because it's very narrow, shall we call it, and then into the Michael Schumacher S's. But Jason Underwood is certainly making life difficult for Jean-Ray Dutoit. The gap is 0.2 of a second. So certainly everything to fight for this position.
And Garrett has pulled away now 4 seconds ahead of them, so this is allowing him just to sort of ease away and run his own race.
I wonder whether Jean-Ray just got a bad start, or did Gerrit get an exceptional start, or was it the track position at turn one? Not quite sure what it was. Peter Gelnes is at him running off wide there, and then the Castrol colours behind him.
Oh, the Castrol car is Peter Gelnes.
Is Peter, my apologies. So the car ahead of Peter Gelnes is, let's have a look, is Sean Olivier. He ran wide in that corner and then had to recollect it. So Peter Gelnes will be right at him, a gap of half a second, 0.6 of a second, as they get to the Coca-Cola curves. Now, second and third seems to be where the battle is being fought at the moment, a quarter of a second between those two. Jason Underwood having a look up the inside. He's not going to do it this time, but positions for the outside, and maybe he's going to try the switchback, but it just looks as though Jean-Ray takes the middle of the road sort of line, which prevents Jason from attempting any pass on him.
So it's quite a battle, and unfortunately it's like you said, the leader has pulled away slightly, although the gap has come down to Garrett. It's now 3.6. So we'll see, maybe Jean-Ray is actually pacing himself. It might be a good thing. Or maybe it's just Garrett is just much faster, but in the practice sessions we've seen the times have been pretty close. So it could just be that they're battling, or it could be that Jean-Ray is maybe trying to pace himself to save his part till the end. We'll have to wait and find out.
The alternative could be that Gerrit is actually pacing himself now that he has this good lead, that he has enough tyres left at the end of the race. But he will know what the gap is. Took a bit of a correction there from Jason coming out of the corner, but he's not letting go of Jean-Ray Dutoit.
And not too far back, in 5th place, we have Monet Deploy now starting to come into play. He's closing in on Jean-Ray. The gap is now a second. And of course, there's a second, just over a second between Jean-Ray and Jason, so this could be interesting. Monet did a 58.5 on the previous lap, so he's actually the slowest of the top 4. Well, mind you, Gerrit did a 58.4. So the top 5 actually closing up ever so slightly.
Yeah, so Monet Deploy is less than a second behind Jean-Ray Dippenaar. Jean-Ray is 1.6 seconds behind Jason Underwood. Jason Underwood 0.5, let's call it half a second, actually it's 0.4 behind Jean-Ray Dutoit, and Jean-Ray more than 4 seconds behind Gerrit Beerkes, the Flying Bumblebee, in the lead.
Another battle that's happening is Dinesh Singh is now closing in on Rian van der Westhuizen.
That's also down to less than a second. So Rian van der Westhuizen will be trying his utmost. If we look at the gentleman races, it's Marius van Wyk that leads the trio of them. He's in 12th position. Javi Goos in 14th is second in the veterans, and Andre Hildebrand in 15th position is third in the veterans.
This battle is just constantly bringing. This is, I'm sure, going to go right down to the end.
Yeah, and driving style and tyres remaining, that sort of thing, all come into play. I think the guys have said that the Porsche becomes more drivable as it gets rid of the fuel load, but also at that stage you are worn into the tyres, so tyre wear becomes a factor. And this circuit is a clockwise circuit, but has quite a few left-hand corners as well. If you look at the Mercedes arena, that's all on the left. So I think the wear on the tyres will be, and that carousel tells me that these two cars are in the Mercedes arena. So it's left, more left, and eventually they'll get a 90-degree right. So here's the more left, they have a little straight bit, and then the 90-degree right. The Mercedes arena on the way down to the Valvoline curve.
So they are together on track, but they are not fighting for position because it looks like Andre Hildebrand is a lap down.
Yes, indeed. So that means that Andre is about a minute behind Javi Goos as well, and Javi in turn is about 53 seconds behind Arjan Belder, who's in car number 26. Here's Dinesh and Julian. Julian in the metallic green, shall we call it that? He's certainly giving it his all. D-Nash just ahead of him by 0.7 of a second. And they'll be racing for that position all the way to the end. There's a bit of using more than what the track limits are. Let's see if the server gives him a warning or a muttering in the ear to stick to track limits. This is the lead, the gap for second and third again. So Jason Underwood certainly is keeping up with Jean-Ray Dutoit. It's 0.4 of a second, depending who comes in and out of the corner first and who's on the brakes and who's on the accelerator. Yes, Jason Underwood in that third position, looking at the lean green machine of Jean-Ray Dutoit, number 737, the Boeing Brigade. 777 is Mornay Dutoit, which is the other part of the Boeing Brigade, and unluckily Mornay has DNF for this race, as Dennis mentioned. So that's just something I thought up because both of their numbers are, of course, Boeing aircraft in the fleet. There's a slide there by Jean-Ray, and Jason will be watching that. So
just a shout out to our YouTube viewers as well. We have Johan Bierkes saying, "Hiya, drive it like it's stolen." Obviously talking to Garrett, definitely driving like he stole it. And we see Jason getting past there.
He made a mistake on the curbs. That one, I think, that you mentioned earlier, he used too much of the curbs, which unsettled the car, and they're coming up to Harvey at the wrong time. Oh, and there's a bump. But I think that was just a racing incident, and that's a bad news racing incident for Jean-Ray Dutoit, because Harvey came out of the corner. Jason didn't know where to go, actually, and then was a little bit onto the brakes, and then there was the collision, and unluckily that put Jean-Ray into the barrier. So that takes away our nice battle that we had for second and third.
Yeah, sadly. Let's see if Jean-Ray can maybe catch up to Jason, or maybe Monet getting past Harvey in the background. We'll keep an eye on that.
It's a bad one. It's a DNF for Jean-Ray Dutoit.
Oh dear. Just back to the YouTube comments. Then also we have Sean Weber saying, "Good evening, guys. Good to have Sean in the comments. Hello, Sean. Good to see you here." Peter Hockey saying, "Come on, Chris Collison." Unfortunately, Chris having a DNF. So we'll see. Maybe Chris will be in race 2, giving the guys a hard time, which I'm sure he will if he's here.
Oh, it's nice to hear the guys actually listen to the commentary. We like to add a bit of spice to what you see in front of you and make it as realistically possible as what we can. And certainly we did have some great racing, and then unluckily we had an accident, and that took that great race away from us. But nothing takes away from the ability of Bierkes to get away from the rest of this team. Now 5.5 seconds ahead of Jason Underwood, and Jason Underwood will take everything that comes his way. This is a battle between Julian Brains, and in front of him D-Nash Singh, and in front of D-Nash is Rian van Westhuizen, I think it is. So this is also closing up quite nicely. Yeah. So Julian just needs to push, and then D-Nash will have to defend for all he's worth.
So with the dual view, we're looking forward from Julian and looking back from Rian. So both views, we can see D-Nash there, as we see D-Nash drifting the car, a bit of smoke coming off the tires.
11 minutes to go in this race.
Right, into the Schumacher Aces.
Yeah, that yellow banner up there indicates that one quite nicely. The Warsteiner curve, and then they'll be up the hill, the TUV Rhineland, the Advanbogen, and the Vidal chicane to follow.
Bit too much rotation for Julian there, lost a little bit of ground.
Yeah, you can see, but certainly it looks as though D-Nash is catching up to Rian. That seems to be closing. What is the gap there between D-Nash and Rian? It's 0.3 of a second. So certainly everything to fight for. And D-Nash Singh, they all take a little bit of the curbing there, and they use it quite well. The Coca-Cola curve, the last corner, before you see the big, I'm not sure if that's all race control, hospitality suites. And then, this is race control possibly on the right here, because they can see the grid positions. There's a nice big grandstand. There's a couple of nice open stands as well. If you go around the circuit, they've got really great open grandstands at the Michael Schumacher S's. So, there's chucking that car really into that's D-Nash, throwing it into that Hagen that I said, that dip that's so sharp as they get into the Mercedes arena. And we say thank you. There's Studio 397, which we did say for the guys that make rFactor 2 and that make all this racing possible. So you see their banners all over the circuit. So the 2 become 3 now with D-Nash is trying his best, and behind D-Nash is that Julian Brains also pushing hard. There's Harvey just off, can't miss those colours. And he's into the gravel trap. It seems to have it pointed in the right direction again. So luckily he's got a big gap to Andre Hildebrandt, but 1 minute is now cut down to just over half a minute. So a little bit of a moment there for Harvey. But certainly Rian van der Westhuizen, D-Nash Singh and Julian Brains have a nice battle going here for 7th, 8th and 9th.
And as we saw the banner there, just a reminder, thank you very much again to Weldmech for making this championship possible. So you can always head over to facebook.com/welding mechanic if you'd like to ask for their services in providing you welding or fabricating, anything that you need. You can give Peter a call. His number is in the ads at play. So anything you need from them, I'm sure they could help you out.
And talking about the ads that play, if you look at the ads that do play between races, you'll see that they also can do a sim racing seat setup for you. Julian Brains is using a little bit more than just the curbing, in my opinion, but let's see whether the server agrees with me or not. But certainly he's cut 2 sets of chicanes, the curbing now that the car is beyond the white line. So, but he does seem to have just that little bit of a distance. They are keeping that race very, very interesting. So it's 0.6, 0.4, so 0.4 of a second that D-Nash is behind Rion, and 0.3 of a second that Julian is behind D-Nash. Here's the 3 of them from Julian Brains' point of view.
We saw very different lines then to turn 1. Oh, Rian locking up D-Nash. Will he get past? I think Rian's lucky enough to... D-Nash might scare it off.
Yeah, the change in direction is what probably rescued him there.
Yes, definitely. Very lucky there to get away with it.
So I said before, if you've got a change in direction, this is the Valvoline curve, then the curve, and then the banked corner for... They go down now the sweeping section, which sweeps to the left, and then the banked Dunlop curve to the right.
D-Nash feeling the need to go defensive there. He's worrying about Julian behind him.
Let's see if he does drift wide. He certainly does, and uses the curbing, which is the racing line. So maybe he's decided, Julian, you've got to chase me. I'm going to run on the line because I'm trying to get at Rian van der Westhuizen for that 7th position.
Losing a little bit there, Julian, for the Schumacher S's though.
This is about the only battle worth mention. We'll tell you the gaps. Gerrit Beekes leads by almost 7 seconds from Jason Underwood, who's 4 seconds ahead of Jandre Dippenaar. 4.5 seconds behind is Morne de Plooy. Sean Olivier another 8 seconds adrift. Pieter Geldenhuys only 2 seconds adrift, so that could be interesting still. And then it's Rian van der Westhuizen 9 seconds behind Pieter, and then Rian leads this trio. He is half a second ahead of D-Nash, and D-Nash is half a second ahead of Julian Brains. So those are the 3 cars that you see 7th, 8th and 9th. Rian van der Westhuizen, D-Nash Singh and Julian Brains.
Quite a close battle still at the front here, so we'll keep an eye and see what happens.
Right, that's the one that is worth watching. As I said, behind Julian, Sean Johnson is 14 seconds adrift. Another 29 seconds behind that is Marius van Wyk. Arjan Belde is 16 seconds behind Marius. Javi Gous is 1:18 behind Arjan. And Andre Hildebrandt is a lap down. So Chandra de Tooy has a DNF, and we had an early DNF for Morne de Tooy. So the whole of the Boeing brigade is in the hangar.
Oh, D-Nash makes a mistake there.
That's certainly taken him out of that threesome. So the other guys can relax a little bit. But you wait and see what's going to happen.
We have a replay of our start.
No, it's just that Gerrit got a demon start. There's no other way about it. And he didn't even go defensive early. He stuck to there's that dip that I talk about. That was noticeable now in the Haughaken. And he was 3-4 car lengths away by the time they got to turn 1.
Yeah.
In isolation now that D-Nash has made the mistake, but did D-Nash take Julian Brains with him? Because they were so close together, and now not any of them are in sight behind Rian. So he's running in isolation, 8 seconds ahead of Dinash, and it must have influenced Julian as well, because Julian is just over a second behind Dinash. So the two of them seem to have got involved with each other, which means Rian van der Westhuizen raced off that he doesn't have to worry much about 7th position anymore, because this race has 4 minutes to go. Depending where the race leader is, it'll be probably the lap that he's on, or is there a change by Julian? Well done, sir. What a dive up inside there. I don't think that he saw that coming at all, did Dinash, unless Dinash has got a problem, because that was such a clean maneuver through the Coca-Cola curve that it just looked too easy to be true.
Yeah, maybe just lost a bit of traction, and we see Julian locking up quite a lot there.
But Dinash also goes very wide. So I think maybe these two guys are battling with tyre wear, and it's to the detriment of both of them, which certainly Rian van der Westhuizen is going to be very happy about. Here comes Dinash with a mission. He's certainly going to try and catch Julian Brains, because Julian goes off and on. Didn't gain position because he had the position already. But certainly I have mentioned a few times, and I'm sure Julian is aware in cockpit himself, that car has been off the road a little bit more than he would like. Oh yes, that was, and I'm not sure if that was a nudge, and he stayed back, the gentlemanly thing to do as per the rules. If you were the cause of the accident, you wait until the guy that you spun around actually gets past you again, and then you go back to racing again. So well done to both of them, except that the pass that Julian did on Dinash in the Coca-Cola curve, that was a legal pass, and now it looks as though Julian is concentrating away from Dinash, and Dinash in chasing is a little bit ragged.
Time is kind of running out with only just over 2 and a bit minutes left to go, but we do have Monet Deploy slowly catching up to Yandre. The gap was 4 seconds a couple of laps ago. It's now 3.3, so I think he's probably going to get the gap down to maybe 2 seconds, unless Yandre starts to have some serious tyre wear. But that is something to keep an eye on, depending on what happens with Yandre's tyre wear.
Where is Gerrit on the circuit at the moment? Because that will determine if they've got this lap and one more to go. There's Gerrit. So I think this is at the end of, I'm going to venture a guess, is he going to go into the hairpin at Dunlop curve? No, that's not a hairpin, certainly not. It's a bit more of the track, and then make a decision where he is.
A corner before Schumacher S's.
Yes, so that'll be, he's on the brakes as well, also locking them up. So he gets the pedal down and he comes up the hill towards the Schumacher S's. This is the Schumacher S's. Uses the curbs and uses them nice and smoothly. After that, so he'll finish this lap more than likely. Let's have a look what the clock says, a minute 18. He will finish this lap and then start the final lap. That's my guess.
We have a DNF for Jason Underwood. Sorry to butt in. We have a DNF for Jason Underwood. So I'm not sure what happened. That puts Monet Deploy up to third now.
Okay, so that's going to be a podium for Monet, which he's going to be, well, a potential podium, because we take the combined races positions to determine who are the trophy winners for the night. But certainly if you've got your foot in the door in third place in race 1, then it's everything to go for in race 2. Here comes the Flying Bumblebee, Gerrit Beerkus, certainly with that demon start. With 38 seconds to go, this will be the final lap.
So Yandre Dippenaar, unfortunately now in third place. That's a bit of a shame.
Is Monet? Where's Yandre disappeared to the PZN paddle beaters car? So he's up there. So Monet Deploy in third, Yandre Dippenaar in second. So with a DNF of it's Yandre Deploy now. What I see, oh, there Jason Underwood appears now. I couldn't see him immediately. I expected all three of the DNFs at the bottom. But of course, Harvey and Andre are lapped. So at this stage, Jason is theoretically still ahead of them. But certainly with this being the last lap, I wonder if they will actually get to overtake. But Yandre Dippenaar grabbing that second position and Monet Deploy in third. But Gerrit Beerkus, flag to flag, certainly unchallenged. His biggest challenge was getting past the back markers. And because the guys in second and third position were so far behind him, he could actually think about it and take the best line, and it didn't bother him very much, considering that he's 16.5 seconds ahead of Jandre de Pinaar.
Jason just got kicked out of the server, so unfortunately a server issue there for Jason, and I think that is exactly what happened with Chris. So both Team Harder Racing drivers unfortunately being booted out of the server, so that's a real shame. Hopefully they can have a stronger race too.
At the Vidal chicane, for the completion of this, through the chicane, then the Coca-Cola curve, and then it's the BMW M-Power bridge, and immediately thereafter the finish line. Coca-Cola curve for the last time, and the checkered flag to Gerrit Beekes for a race well driven.
Oh, great race right there. Next race 1 victory. Jandre de Pinaar, second place. And closing in just over 2 seconds, now just under 2 seconds behind him is Monet Deploy in third place. So a great race for Monet.
It's going to be interesting what happens if everybody comes back strong in the second race. Then potentially we're going to have a very interesting calculation for the podium results, the final podium results.
Yeah. This is kind of giving it to Gerrit. Jandre having had an accident, Jason being disconnected, unfortunately Chris having a disconnection, so yeah, unfortunately that's how it goes sometimes. It's helped out some of the other drivers. Peter Caldenes, a fantastic 5th place, Rian van der Weste is in 6th place, so great results for them. Julian Brains did eventually get ahead of D Nash, unfortunately we missed it while we're focusing on all the other battles. D Nash coming across the line right behind him there. Sean Johnson 9th place, so a good race for Sean.
He's going to be quite chuffed with that, I'm sure.
Morris van Wyk taking 10th place as well. That's the top veteran driver for the day, or for race 1 for the day, for the night.
Yes.
Their day, our night.
Yes. So yeah, Nurburgring certainly an interesting circuit, a very nice circuit to commentate on, because you have to keep your wits about you as to where you are on the track. This is the only reason I know this is the Coca-Cola curve, is because you see the pit lane peel off, and then there'll be, and yeah, of course you have the grid position, the grid starts painted, there's the finish line that appears. So great race. Harvey Goos, he's amongst the finishers. He'll be happy that he beat Andre Hildebrandt, even though they're a further distance behind for 12th and 13th. So Harvey, for a change, finishing 12th, even though he has car number 13.
And that's it for race 1. We're going to jump to an ad break and we'll be back shortly. Right, welcome back everyone. We're finally back for race 2. This of course is race 2 of the Sim Experience SA Weldmech Porsche Supercup 2023 round 5, coming to you live on the Nurburgring. This is race 2, another 30-minute race. I'm your commentator Dennis Mitchell, joined again by Sean Woodgate. Good evening, Sean.
Yes, and good evening, Dennis, once again, and good evening, everybody. Hopefully we have as fun-filled race as what we did have in race 1.
Alright, just watching some of the drivers heading around at the moment. They are of course on their formation lap at the moment, which I should let you know on screen. So that is now there to show you it is the formation lap. And of course we do have, what was I going to show you? I was going to show you, of course, this is race 2, which I have already shown you, so I'm clicking all the wrong buttons, so apologies for that. What I was meant to click on is our starting order, which of course will hopefully pop up in a moment, which it won't because I've clicked the wrong button. I'm really having a bad start here at the moment, but for some reason it's not showing it. If I click it on the right thing, that's why.
We can tell you is that the pole sitter in race 1 hasn't made it to race 2. So Gerrit Beerkes has got an open road ahead of him, and certainly he had a demon start race 1. Let's see what he's going to do about it in race 2.
Let me just start that again. It's got itself all confused. Well, I've got myself all confused, so let's start that again. Right, so in pole position, like you said, we don't have Jean-Louis Dutoit, he didn't make it, so we have Gerrit Beerkes in first place, Yandre Dippenaar in second, Jason Underwood in third, and Sean Olivier in fourth. In fifth place, Dinesh Singh. In sixth place, Pieter Geldenhuys. In seventh place, Rian van der Westhuizen. And in eighth place, Julian Brains. I'm not sure what's happened to some of the drivers, so we'll catch up with those in a moment. Andre Hildebrandt in 9th place, Sean Johnson in 10th place, Marius van Wyk in 11th place, Arjun Balde in 12th place. In 13th place, Harvey Goos. In 14th place, Stanton Augustus. And in 15th place, Christian Labas. So we've lost a few drivers, unfortunately. Monet Dutoit, Monet Deploy, all the Monets. Chris Collison, unfortunately, can't make it for race 2. Jean-Ray Dutoit, of course, is the big one as well, yes.
But we do have Stanton Augustus and Christian Labas joining us for race 2.
Yes, so at least we do have a few more drivers joining. We've had some, unfortunately, that can't make race 2. We had some guys with connections during race 1. Unfortunately, both the Team Harder drivers. So we've changed servers to our backup server, which was part of the delay, which was a different port. So hopefully that means we won't have the same issues. Right, the drivers are all forming on the grid.
Jason Underwood can do this time. Of course, Gerrit Beerkes is now on the outside, whereas previously when he was P2, he was on the inside. And let's see if Yandre Dippenaar can use the inside line off the start line.
Right, drivers now taking their positions. Right, we wait for the timer to start. Race 2 about to get underway. Right, the timer is now, everyone's on the grid, so we're waiting for everyone to get going. Timer up so we can see. We're away. Great start once again by Gerrit.
Is it Pieter Geldenhuys that runs in the Castrol colours?
Yes. Oh, in the background it looks like Harvey had a bit of a collision with one of the other cars.
Oh, he gets nudged twice, but I think Pieter got a demon start up against the inside of the circuit and made up a position right off the lights, as it were. And right behind him, I think it's Sean Olivier that nudged him twice, but no position gained or lost. So they'll stick to those positions. But certainly a good start there by Pieter Geldenhuys.
Right, so Yandre Dippenaar is in second place at the moment from Gerrit Beerkes out front. Jason Underwood now right behind Yandre. Dinesh Singh currently in fourth place, so a good start there for Dinesh as well. He wasn't fifth on the grid.
Yeah, I think the startling effect that Pieter Geldenhuys, I think he got past Sean Olivier That startled the drivers behind as well, and they hung back so as not to drive into anybody, and that's given D Nash a bit of a gap. I think you can hang Gerrit Beekes' car from a recovery crane and he'll still have a good start.
Yes, definitely knows how to get the car off the line.
Yeah, he's done it again, and within a portion of the lap, he's 1.5 seconds in the lead.
So unfortunately, Harvey having a bad start and getting caught up with an incident at the start there.
Everything to fight for, to come back. He's got Arjan Belder ahead of him, and then Marius van Wyk. So those are the guys that he'd be trying to get at, but he's already 13 seconds adrift of the car ahead of him, which is Arjan Belder. So everything to fight for.
And we have Stanton Augustus working his way through the field, of course not making race 1, he is in race 2. So thankfully we have him there. We see a car that has spun on the main start line there. I think it is Peter Galdenes, it is indeed.
My goodness, so that's an event that one wouldn't expect. So specifically on the start line, unless you're getting out of the Coca-Cola curves completely wrong, that you wouldn't expect a spin there, but it happened, and the guys are getting to deal with it. Don't see yellows on the lap scoring monitor, so they must have cleared that up.
Looking to see if I can find out what actually happened. Maybe we can use that and have a view pop up and show us what happened. But at the moment we have a battle for second. We have Jason Underwood who's actually got past without us seeing.
Yeah.
Apologies for that.
So 2.1 seconds that Jason is behind Gerrit. So this is going to be an interesting race where Jason gets past early and he can then concentrate on catching up Gerrit Beekes. And whether there's Gerrit Beekes, the flying bumblebee, let's see who's going to get at him. Jason Underwood, Team Harder Racing. Certainly it was very hard for him and his teammate in the first race with, I think, connection problems to the server. And as we say, things like this happen. Andre Dippenaar in a very solid third position, running car number 9. And a little bit further back, quite a bit further back from them is Nash, 0.7 seconds. Here we see, Peter got that all wrong in the sand. So, and facing the wrong direction doesn't help either, because then you've got to wait, and you're on the grass, which doesn't have grip. So a compound of factors that got Peter from, we had a really, really good start. He's now only just ahead of Javi Gous. So, well, quite a bit ahead of Javi Gous, but still, considering having just sung his praises, he then made a basic error coming into the main straight, and that turned out to have a big effect of where he is on the racetrack compared to everybody else.
Yeah, and also the move with Jason and Yandre, it was Jason actually making a move on Yandre. That is a nicely timed move. Let's see if I can get that for us.
So Jason, he hasn't got it all his own way. Yandre is only behind him. And because they are sort of competing with each other, Gerrit Beekes is already 2.3 seconds ahead of them. So he gets away there, just out of view to the left. Here goes the flying bumblebee. Jason Underwood, Team Harder Racing, Andre Dippenaar. He's trying to get back at them. Here he comes. Here's the carousel, which is the inside section of the circuit. So he just used that really superior speed going into the corner and then blocked the line. So there's not much that Yandre could have done about that. But a nice clean pass, no bumps, no barges. And Yandre has to do all the work to get back at Jason Underwood.
And he's hanging in there at the moment. So in fact, Jason's hanging in there with Gerrit. So maybe Jason can catch Gerrit. It's going to be close. I don't think Jason's got Gerrit's pace at the moment, but I think it might be a bit closer than Yandre. It looked like he was maybe saving tires a little bit and waiting at the end, and then unfortunately had a bit of an issue. He went off and damaged his car, but let's see how this race, we've got different drivers in second and third now, so we'll see. Maybe they can give a bit more of a challenge to Gerrit.
Yeah, it certainly throws a cat amongst the pigeons as far as the podium goes for the day overall, because now you've got Jason in second place and he didn't finish race 1. Gerrit Beekes, I think, is a given for the finish in race 1 and 2, and I think he got fastest lap and he's fastest moment. So he's going to get a fistful of points. He doesn't get the pole position though. That goes to Genre, even though Genre is running in this race. So Genre will walk away with 1 point. Is that Peter Geldenhuys making up positions again?
No, Stanton Augustus.
Oh, that's Stanton, the E-Tech Porsche team. So he joined for the second race only, and what a clean move. Of course, Stanton and his teammate, who we don't see in this competition, but they are used to running endurance races in sim racing. So we're talking about 24-hour endurance races. So to them, this is like a warm-up or a sprint race. It is half an hour, so to some it might seem a bit long, but to somebody of the caliber of Stanton Augustus, already from, I think, last or second last, he's already up 7th position, and he's hunting down Christian Labas, who also joined from the back of the field. He didn't compete in race 1, and there they are, Christian in 6th and Stanton in 7th.
Something to comment on as well. Christian had problems with connection in some of the previous rounds. His car was kind of all over the show. He's a foreign driver, and some of our foreign drivers have had issues. We asked him to try a few things, and at the moment it looks like his connection is stable. His car is not bouncing around like it was in the previous rounds. We know that some of the drivers that do drive from abroad, we're standing having a bit of a look there. Looks like getting past.
He'll have to go around the outside, which I think he's going to do. He just had a better flow completely. I think Christian Labas got that wrong about 2 corners before the pass was made. He got the car unsettled. He locked up the inside right wheel as they went through the right-hander. And in locking up, he had to actually steer to the outside to prevent the car from rotating. And that's where Stanton really caught up. And since then, Stanton's flow was just a lot better, and he could make the pass quite easily.
Yeah, as I was saying, also, Christian having a problem with connections in the previous races. It looks like his connection's fine now, so maybe he tried some of the tips that were given to us by the GES, Global Endurance Series. So they had some of our drivers driving with them, and that seems to have helped. Oh, Stanton, that was good, but they didn't come together there.
Yeah, he got that corner, I think, in a bit hot, and that means all that hard work that he's done, he has to give up that position again. And now Dinesh Singh is right behind him as well. Nice battle was Christian Labas in 6th, Stanton Augustus in 7th, and Dinesh Singh in 8th position.
Yeah, so glad that Christian didn't give it up. He was very keen to give it up, so with a bit of help, he's back in, and it looks like all going good, and currently fighting for 6th place. So nice battle on the way here with two drivers at the moment. It looks like Stanton might get past if he doesn't make a mistake and then pull away. Stanton, of course, having missed race 1, maybe he's just a bit rusty.
Yeah, that could be. The other battle that's worth looking at is Jandre Dippenaar is only 0.6.7 of a second behind Jason Underwood, which means Jason Underwood has had to forget about chasing Gerrit Beerkes, and he's now got to concentrate on keeping Jandre behind him.
Yeah, and Jandre is right there with him as well, so that's very close. 0.6 of a second at the moment. That's, I think, one of our closest battles, as we have Stanton Augustus currently looking again to get past Christian Labas, going around the outside now. And looks like he's got the move done. And in the background we have is that Rian van der Weste is challenging Dinesh Singh as well.
Yes, so that's tightening up quite nicely. But Christian Labas drifting out a little bit wide there. As I say, he seems to get the car a little bit unsettled on some of the curves. I think you mentioned before we started race 1, there are certain curves that you use, but not too much, because you use too much, it flings you to the outside of the corner, and that's what you don't want to do, because the car over rotates, and you've got to then drive to the outside of the corner to actually straighten it up again. But a nice battle that's raging between these 4, as it's let's have a look. Stanton Augustus, Christian Labas, Dinesh Singh, and Rian van der Weste.
Another battle further back, we've got Peter Geldenhuys on a recovery drive. He's challenging Andre Hildebrandt at the moment, so Andre currently sitting in 11th place, Peter Geldenhuys in 12th place.
Well, that's why Peter had such a demon pass on the start straight before they even got to turn 1, and he gets the Haughaken wrong again. Looks like he's having a really rough day of it. He does all the catching up and then spins the car around and allows Andre Hildebrandt to go away unscathed. Maurice van Wyk, he's in 10th.
Just looking at some of the drivers. So the battle currently with Dinesh at the moment is still raging.
Now those 3 are quite close. So behind Dinesh is Rian van der Westhuizen. So he's in the Sim Experience SA colours. And look at the speed that he closes in on him. And Dinesh drifts wide. And what a nice smooth line through the corner there. Let's see if he can hold on to that. So Dinesh has got to keep Rian van der Westhuizen behind him. It looks as though he only just, there's cutting a corner and gaining an advantage, in my opinion, because you held on to a position tested. So I think he's given it up. Otherwise, but then, having just said that, then Rian goes and makes the mistake himself again and drifts off the corner, a little bit hot-headed there. I think probably about a full second late on the brakes. They pass through underneath the TUV Rhineland banner, and that's before the Advanbogen, the Advanbou, and then the Wex get to the Vidal chicane, which is here, and they use the curbing. And again, the challenge is on Dinesh, who's got his name on the back of the car. So just to let you know, this is who you're aiming at, loud and proud, as they go down the straight after the Coca-Cola curve.
Right, now they're heading down the main straight into turn 1. Of course, they are catching to Christian Labas as well, so that's now a 3-way battle with Christian. Ooh, Dinesh running slightly wide there.
I think he was a bit late on the brakes, or had he not drifted out wide, he might have run into Christian. But Christian just seemed to take a normal racing line. It was a bit slower than what Dinesh was doing then. Maybe Dinesh was a little bit hot into the corner, but certainly Rian van der Westhuizen is also taking, shall we say, interesting lines through corners. But I think at this stage of the game, they are just at each other's throats, and they don't want to let the cars ahead of, especially if you're Rian van der Westhuizen, you want to stay in touch with Dinesh and in turn also with Christian Labas. So these three cars having a very good battle between the three of them. Mistakes being made here and there, positions gained and lost. We've seen a couple of passes because the drivers getting the corners wrong, but we'll have to wait and see if they're going to back it. Well, look up there by Dinesh. Does mean he closes up though, but it's not going to be very good for the rubber for the race later. You had to see that nobody's dropped off this race, no DNFs as such, and we have 19 minutes to go. So all to race for still. It's about 1 minute 56, so let's call it 2 minutes per lap, and then depending where the race leader is in the last minute or two will determine whether we get an extra lap in. But certainly in 30 minutes we'd expect to do 15 laps at least. I didn't check the laps in the last race, but the race leader started the last lap with, if I recall, 20 odd seconds to go. So we ran a little bit over the half an hour. Yellow flag. Yes, again, these three cars are very competitive, and at this stage it looks as though Rian van der Westhuizen is making life very difficult for Dinesh Singh. Dinesh hugging the inside of the corner, which is the racing line, but here down the straight, just look at Christian Labas get a better exit out of that corner and open up about 2 or 3 car lengths between himself and Dinesh Singh on the way to turn 1.
A lock up there by Christian.
And he drifts wide out of turn 1, but so does everybody else. So he gets away with that. So already, as we said, mistakes are being made, and certain advantages can be made out there. That's the Mercedes arena that they are there. There you see actually the back end of the building that's on the outside of turn 1, if you're in the Mercedes arena. And looking back as well, you can see that carousel wheel that's also in the Mercedes arena. So a lot of the circuit identifiers are visible from other positions as well, which certainly do help. This is must be a very nice track. I haven't driven in sim anything yet. I've gone around a few circuits in cars in real life, but watching these, it must be a lot of fun in sim racing, and you've got to know where you are on the track or have somebody spotting for you to get your lines and your entry and exit points correct. There over the curves, and then some goes Julian. So that battle has quietened down a little bit. So where is Julian? He's in 5th position and 2.6 seconds behind Sean Olivier. So Sean Olivier in turn 12 seconds behind Jandre Dippenaar, and Jandre 1.3 behind Jason. And Jason about 6 seconds. He's cutting that corner completely, Javi, that he went at that with the axle blade. And Coca-Cola curve comes up next, and Javi just concentrates on getting his car into the main straight, and not the line that Peter Gelnhuys took. glitter, because that bites you if you are going sideways and you end up pointing in the wrong direction.
This battle again, still brewing here. The three of them going at it.
Yeah. Again on the brakes, Christian. So looks as though he seems quite happy to be doing that and drift out wide. And then because of the double change of direction, and then it's just that long continuous left on the inside of the Mercedes arena. Here's the carousel wheel, as we say, that we use as inside the. Only once they turn to the right, as they do here, do they exit the Mercedes arena. It's a continuous sequence of left-handers, and then there's a slight straight before they get into the Valvoline curve. There's a toll there. I'm not sure if they put the cars and the positions they're in and the car numbers on that pole, but there's a tall pole in the Valvoline. And there's a yellow banner at the Ford curve. Then there's the sweeping left-hander, which isn't really a corner, just the road sweeps to the left before they get to the banked Dunlop curve to the right. And that's a hairpin, and it goes into the Michael Schumacher S's, which are long, fast, sweeping S's. And that gives them time to catch some speed for the Michelin curve, which is a 90 left. They've got Harvey that they're going to have to contend with soon. So let's see where he's going to find himself. Is it going to be at the Michelin curve? Because immediately thereafter is the Warsteiner curve, which is a little bit more than a 90. And then they go up the hill to the Advanbow and then to the Vidal chicane.
So some of the other battles in the field while we're watching this other one about to come past Harvey Coast. We also have Sean Johnson catching up to Andre Hildebrand. So Sean didn't have the greatest of starts, not sure what happened, but currently in 13th place behind Andre Hildebrand.
Right, and they certainly added, let's see where Harvey is, because he's going to be in that pack of three. This is Andre Hildebrand, of course, that's got Sean Johnson behind him. There's Harvey Coast. So I think they have passed Harvey comfortably. If we look back, then behind Harvey Goos, I think is the car of, is it Rian van Westhuizen or Marius van Wyk? It's behind Harvey in the...
I think it's Rian van Westhuizen, yeah.
Yeah, so it's the car behind Harvey. At the stage, the race leader certainly had it a handful of points, as we said. He's going to have fastest lap in both laps and winner of both races. The only point he doesn't get, or the only bonus point he doesn't get today, is for qualifying in pole. And unluckily, Jean Ray is not with the race.
So at the moment, the battle that is brewing for the end of the race would be the one with Stanton Augustus and Julian Brain. So this is the battle for 5th place. A good recovery drive for Stanton from the back of the grid.
Yeah, he made two fairly big mistakes that we saw. There might have been some others that we didn't see, but from where he started to be in 6th position is a really good drive. And if you consider, had he not made those two mistakes that we saw, he might even have been in 5th position. So who knows? Maybe Julian Brains is still going to have Stanton Augustus pass him before the end of the race. And then certainly we will say, well, he's had a great race up to now, but it might even be a bit better. Here he comes over the curbs. I'm sure they have a 24-hour endurance race here at Nurburgring, and he probably knows this road very well. There, certainly you can see just a big piece of distance between the two of them that disappears as he comes up on the inside, and Julian can't tighten up the line because the car's there. So yeah, certainly you'll see the dips. They're both on the brakes. Julian rotates. Is he going to undercut? Stanton tries, but all's well that ends well. Nobody runs into anybody else. But certainly I think they were both on the brakes a little bit late and couldn't get turned into that corner. Stanton back up at him again.
I think possibly the contact between them maybe unsettled them as well.
Yeah, no, that corner is difficult, as I said in itself. It's not always as visible as I noticed it in qualifying, that turn 1 has a very deep dip on the inside of the corner. So if you've got that deep dip and you're slightly offline and or have a nudge, then that could be a very difficult corner to negotiate, to line up and get right to get into the Mercedes arena. All black lines being left there So is that Julian trying a bit harder than the tyres would like him to do?
Figure out. Was it a figure 11? I don't know. Can you do figure 11s in the brakes? Probably can.
Yeah. So Julian Brains is, he'll be quite tough to be in a position that he's in. The 5th position for Julian is really good news. And we have 8.5 minutes still to go in this race. So 4 laps, and depending on how it is, maybe even.
So Julian's pace, not too bad. His fastest lap so far is a 58.5. Stanton's is at 57.9. So not much slower than what Stanton is. Stanton is only about half a second faster, which was Julian taking a bit of a cut. He's going to get a warning for that.
I went to the same hardware shop that Harvey is at. And down the straight, let's see turn 1 again. The whole Hacken. We'll have to see, but he's a bit far back to mount a challenge from here, visually. We've had them a lot closer previously. But maybe he can still unsettle Julian, force him into a mistake. Early break, see, there's that dip. You could see it clearly there with Julian's car looking forward from Stanton. I think that must unsettle you quite a bit to have that dip and you're turning so much to the right, and then the front dips away from you. Here comes Stanton, and he just made it. I'm not sure if Julian made a mistake in the Mercedes arena or the exit of the Mercedes arena, but certainly, or if you got a warning potentially, corner cut, which they could consider as gaining an advantage. If he was going too fast and would have had to brake for that chicane, he wouldn't have made the chicane, which is potentially, as we say, we only say things the way we see them. We're not criticizing any drivers, and we certainly are not the judges of fact. So no offense meant, and hopefully no offense taken by any of the, but certainly a nice, well, not a nice, I think it was a slowdown by Julian, and he let Stanton go. And Stanton has taken that and made a 5th position of his own. 4 seconds to go behind Sean Olivier. If you look at the last lap, Stanton at 57.9, well, call it a 58, and Sean Olivier at 58.4. So he needs, if it's only 0.4 of a second, then Stanton needs 10 laps to catch up to Sean Olivier. But now that Stanton's rid of Julian Brains, maybe we'll see that the lap times for Stanton come down, and already it's down 3.6 seconds. 3.5, so Stanton's on a charge. He wants to try and get to 4th position.
Looks like we have a DNF for Sean Johnson as well, so I'm not sure what's happened there.
Yeah, number 52, so a DNF for Sean, which is maybe a disconnect, we don't know. But everybody else is going. Christian Labas, Dinesh has got past, or is still, no, let's try that again. Christian has lost positions. And Dinesh is in 7th and Christian is in 8th, because Christian was ahead of, was it Christian, then Dinesh, then Julian. So they've all got past Christian. So he finds himself in 8th position again. And who was that stuck?
That was Sean Johnson losing it, and that's why we have a DNF.
There we go. So a couple of the DNFs that we've had on the replay that we see the reason why. And the one was Genre, we do know, but that was just a bit of bad luck as to where you found yourself with the back markers at the time. And Genre found himself in the barrier, and that was the end of his race in race 1. But certainly a great race by Stanton at this stage. He can see who he's aiming at. Sean Olivier is ahead of him, but maybe that's a bridge too far. With 4.3 seconds that Stanton is behind Sean, and still only 5 minutes to go. So we'll have to wait and see whether he's going to be able to challenge for that position. Well, bigger gaps have been closed in previous races, so nothing's impossible here. We'll have to wait and see. Always forget about the countdown timer that's actually on top of the visuals of the cars going around the circuit. So 4.5 minutes to go. Now go looking for it on the lap scoring monitor, but certainly Julian Brains, he'll know that he's been in a race with Stanton Augustus and eventually giving up, I think, the position to Stanton because of this chicane, if I recall. So this time he takes it a little bit more sedately, and they go up the hill for the Coca-Cola curve and the straight once again. That's the gap for Stanton now. 3.4, so he gains about a second. So maybe still Stanton is going to chase Sean Olivier. Who knows?
Yeah, so let's have a look at Sean. So Sean running turn 1 at the moment. Just under 4 minutes to go. It's going to be a tough ask for Stanton, but last lap time we had 58.9 for Sean and we had a 59.0 for Stanton. So let's see what Stanton's lap time will be on this lap. But at the moment, Sean looking like he's doing all right. I think he's going to defend the position. I don't think Stanton will have the pace to catch him.
Yeah, certainly looking at the last lap times, you're quite right. They're running virtually identical times. And by hundredths of a second, Stanton, in fact, a little bit slower. The other battle, Jason Underwood with Jandre Dippenaar. Jason Underwood is 8.6 seconds behind Gerrit Beekes. That's in second, and 9 seconds behind Jason is Jandre Dippenaar. So there's no change, I don't think, going to be for first, second, third, and 12 seconds behind Jandre is Sean Olivier. So that's the top 4 sort of settled. And Stanton, although he's got it under 3 seconds already, so Stanton's pushing hard. We might still see a change. We'll have to see whether Stanton can catch Sean Olivier with this, 2 3/4 minutes to go. So it's a lap, and wherever the race leader finds himself, that will determine that it's going to be one more lap. So if this is Jandre Dippenaar, he's in third, and he's 17 seconds behind the race leader. So the race leader has already started, I think. No, it'll be one lap and one more. So if the race leader if this is Jason, who's in second position, then the race leader's ahead of him. That means they're going to finish this lap and start one more. So interesting to see Stanton now got it down to 2.4 seconds with this lap and one more to come. So Sean Olivier will have to get the foot down because Stanton Augustus has got him in his sights.
Yeah. Ooh, DNF for Jandre Dippenaar. What has happened to Jandre Dippenaar?
That's from third position. So that shuffles everything up at the top again. So Stanton might even be pushing for fourth position. We'll have to wait and see. A little bit of a bob and a weave from Stanton, but he can certainly see Sean Olivier ahead of him. And although he wasn't there for both races, there's a potential podium finish for race 2, although he won't get recognition for it because the podium is determined by the combined race positions. And of course, he wasn't here for race 1, but certainly he's racing for pride. And let's see where Stanton now, 2.9, 3.2 seconds. So Sean Olivier also has realized that Stanton is pushing hard to try and catch him and that they've got this lap and one more to go. Well, they might not know that it's this lap and one more to go because the race leader, I'm sure, will start the next lap before we run out of our 1 minute just ticks by.
If I'm correct, it looks like Jandre Dippenaar just had a disconnect.
Oh, that's a pity. He was running so well. So, yeah, the disconnects certainly are one of those things that one lives with in some racing. Ooh, a wide drift there by Sean Olivier. That'll give Stanton a chance. Maybe Sean pushing these tyres, I wouldn't say beyond their limits, but he's pushing them for all they're worth as they pass through underneath the TUB Rhineland for the Advan Bow. That's the Advan Bow, then up to the Vidal chicane. So this will be to finish the lap that they're on, and it'll be one more to go. So he crosses the chicane and possibly a bit more than the chicane. This is the Mercedes Arena that the race leader is getting through. Gerrit Beekes, number 3, the Flying Bumblebee. He's lapped Gawie Gous, as he did in race 1 as well. So this is definitely the final lap as we click to 0 seconds. And the race leader going along quite nicely, thank you. So now it's a question of where is Stanton relative to Sean Olivier. The gap is 2.7 seconds. I think 2 seconds in a lap is a little bit too much to ask. So although don't think that Stanton will stop trying, but yeah, it's Gerrit Beekes that leads from Jason Underwood, Sean Olivier in third, Stanton Augustus in fourth, Julian Brains in fifth, and I'm not even going to try, other than to say Gerrit Beekes is going to get P1, I'm not even going to try and work out who gets the rest of the podium.
It might be someone like Julian Brains maybe in second because he had
Nash,
Nash, yeah?
Yeah, they might be on the podium. Harvey sticks to one side of the road. He lets Jason through. Jason 8 seconds, 8.5 seconds adrift of the race leader. So I don't think he's going to be quite happy with the finish for a change, because Team Harder Racing had a very difficult first race. I think both of them had a disconnect and didn't finish the race. So the Vidal chicane for the last time, that was Gerrit Beekes, I think the man that's going to win. So first race to Gerrit, second race to Gerrit, fastest lap times in both of them. The only thing he misses out is P1 in qualifying. Your race and evening winner, Gerrit Beekes.
Second place for race 2, Jason Underwood.
I think Jason will be quite chuffed with that. Finishing for a change. Sean Olivier, he's going to know that he's raced hard in this final lap, because Stanton Augustus is right there with him. But I think it's just that little bit. There's where they go off for the pit lane. So Sean Olivier has timed this to perfection. Just don't make a mistake out of the Coca-Cola curves.
That's a P3 in race 1 for Thorax Racing and race 2. It's just that it's the different drivers.
Oh, well done to Thorax Racing. So a great race there for Stanton Augustus. As we said, he started from the back of the field. Julian Brains might be on the podium, or D Nash, or Julian and or D Nash. I'm not quite sure.
I'm going to say yes. I'm going to put my money on the line and say D Nash and Julian should be on the podium with Carrot.
It's going to be
quite a shake-up.
Yeah, it's going to shake the points as well. But certainly an interesting race that we did have. A great pity for the DNF that we did have, and that was probably just, as we said, Sean Johnson, Jandre Dippenaar, a disconnect. Or Sean Johnson ended up facing the Jandre Dippenaar disconnect. So that's a great pity there. But yeah, Gerrit Beekes, great evening racing. He just got flipped to the post in qualifying, but as for the rest, there's nobody to touch him.
Arjun Balder, unfortunately, losing it there. Unless this is a in-lap for him, but I don't think so.
No, he was running high up. He finds himself in 12th because of that. And that's a long way back. So certainly he was running higher up than that in the race itself. So, yeah, even this late in the race, you can make a mistake, costs you grid position in the finish. So, but Arjan, him and I think who was he running with? They were never really close they didn't come up in commentary that the challenge being mounted was, but he'll be happy that he finished the race nonetheless. Ahead of Gavi Gous, who's still running, but Gavi a lap down.
All right, well, we're going to jump to an ad break now. We'll be back shortly with our top 3 drivers. We're not too sure who they are, so we'll be back shortly. right, welcome back everyone to the completion of the Sim Experience Weldmech Porsche Supercup Round 5 from the Nurburgring. Of course, I'm joined by only one of our drivers. So our top 3 drivers for the round are Gerrit Beekers, Sean Olivier and Jandre Dippenaar. Unfortunately, Sean Olivier and Jandre Dippenaar are not with us at the moment, so I presume they've gone to watch the rugby or something. So we are joined by Gerrit only, so congratulations, Gerrit, to race 1 and race 2 victory. Unfortunately, you didn't get the pole position today. You were beaten by Jandre, and Jandre had a incident in race 1. He lost his car, and he didn't make it back for race 2. I'm not sure why, but congratulations. It's a fantastic round. Perhaps you could talk us through it. You didn't have the greatest of qualifyings. I mean, I wouldn't say great, not the greatest, but by your standards, you're only second place. But a stunning start in both races, and you just sort of walked away after that. Talk us through your races.
Yeah, hi guys. Basically in the qualifying, same as with the previous track, I couldn't get a clean lap. There were 2 or 3 instances where I was 300 up and then I would lose it, and maybe just pushing too hard. And then coming to the race pace, I was having a look this week at Chris's lap times, and he was doing mid 57s, and I knew that was the race pace that I needed to get to. And I could keep 57 mids through the whole race. I don't know what happened to the other guys, but I know I knew if Chris was in the race, he would have been there. So basically not making any mistakes and not over, because on the race setup there is a 55 mid in the car, but as soon as you overdrive the car, then your lap times start tumbling. So if you can keep it in that window, the car seems to work.
Yeah. Sean, would you like to ask the question?
No, you said it all, Dennis. We were threatening Gerrit to from one of those cranes and see how you do in the start from there, because you started on the right-hand side. This circuit, of course, the pole sitter is on the wrong side of the road, according to me. But you started from the left side. You started from got it in pole. The one question that I have is turn 1, that dip into turn 1. Is it as bad as what it really looks?
It is extremely during the race. It's extremely hard on the tires, on the front tires coming into that corner. But you just move your brake marker back by, let's say, 10 meters or so, and the tires cope fine. It's got a like a heavy drop off to the right. So the car, because the Porsche is so stiff, it tends to bounce there. But slow in, fast out with this car is key. It's key with this car, and that's and that makes it you can cope with that for the first turn there if you do it right.
Yeah, certainly. That's where you got your distance. In race 1 specifically, I think you were in turn 1 probably with a lead of 5 car lengths. I'm not sure whether they're competing with each other, but you were unchallenged. You had the easiest race day you've had a long time, except for, was it Chris that got knocked out? Kicked out by the server? That would have made life a bit more interesting for you.
I believe so, yeah.
Well done. Great race.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Gerrit. I'm going to get rid of you. You can go watch the rugby if you want to.
I will do.
Yes, Gerrit.
Thank you, and congratulations to Gerrit. And then we'll wrap this up for our viewers that want to watch the rugby as well. So, of course, our next round is Spa-Francorchamps. Fantastic circuit, a driver's circuit. So that'll be next week. And that is, of course, one of the longest circuits that we have on the calendar of 7 kilometers. So fantastic circuit, one of my favorite circuits, and I think that will be quite a challenging circuit with the Porsche Cup car. So I think that'll be an interesting one to watch. But until next week, have a good week, and we will catch you all next week. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, everybody.